I've been in business for about 25 years working with leaders, the leadership team, CEOs, and helping them fundamentally transform what it is they do. And so I thought I'd tell you my stories and share with you some of the lessons that I've learned in working in business over the last 25 years. And my story really starts when I was a child. I had a fascination with commercials. My brother and I would watch Saturday morning cartoons. We really only had 3 channels. That's how old I was, or am. And we would watch these great cartoons, and then as soon as a commercial came on, my brother would bolt out of the room, and he would go do something else. But not me. I would get closer to the television, and I would watch these commercials. And these commercials really, really got to me because I thought they were promising something. They were promising something big, and I really liked what they were promising. And I got sucked into one of those commercials at a very young age, and I went out and I talked my mother into buying this product. So I used this product religiously, and what the product promised me at a very young age was that I would have supermodel-like results. That's me on the left, in my 11-year-old supermodel self. And what I discovered at a very early age is that there were a lot of promises out there, and those promises were not going to yield the results that they were ultimately promising. So I kept studying these commercials. I kind of look like a garden gnome, don't I? I kept studying these commercials, and I kept getting sucked into them, but ultimately I developed a pretty healthy skepticism about businesses and their promises. And I started to really investigate through my studies what it is that I thought I wanted to be. And originally I thought I wanted to be in advertising, but I didn't want to break promises. I didn't see advertisers as really helping companies deliver against promises. So I explored further, and I started to really embrace all these management frameworks that you see. But I looked at these management frameworks, and they directed me to a new career. And that career was management consulting. I was hooked. I thought that was the place I needed to be. And very quickly, I finished grad school, and I loaded up all my frameworks into a toolbox. I got an incredible job with a major corporation that had a rotational program, and this rotational program was geared to help me develop as a professional and really as an internal consultant to the business, learning everything that I could from these incredible professionals that were around me. And that first assignment, I set off, and I loaded up my toolbox, and my toolbox was loaded with things that were geared towards efficiency gains, and strategic positioning. They were great tools. And my first rotational assignment was around implementing a robotic system that was really designed to take humans out of a very harmful manufacturing environment. It was very, very exciting. And so what I did, my role on that team, was to develop the business case. And in developing that business case, I looked at all these frameworks and I looked at all these tools. I got really excited about using them. And I think I used total quality management, and I used balanced scorecard, and I brought it all together, and I developed the most elaborate business case you've ever seen. It was beautiful. We took it in front of the executives. The executives said, the returns look great. Go get them. We got our project approved, and our project was up and running in no time. It was spectacular. We had this robotic system up and running. We were going to help humans by getting them out of the way in this manufacturing environment. So we implemented. We went live. Nothing happened. Nobody came. It was the era of build it and they will come. Well, they didn't come. In fact, they fought us, and it was an amazing fight. And all this time and energy and investment that we put in it was wasted. The manufacturing lead in the facility said, I'm not going to fight this. The operators don't want to use it. What we neglected to realize was people really kind of wanted their jobs. They were okay with the harm that they were in. They didn't want to lose their jobs, and we didn't even focus on that. We were so enamored with the technology. So we shelved that project. I learned a lot, and enter a new era in frameworks. This framework, time, and loading my toolbox up, was all around process, re-engineering, and change management. Really looking at the human side of change and the efficiencies through process, end-to-end process management. Very, very exciting time for me. I loaded up my frameworks again, and I focused on one in particular up here that I just loved, which was John Kotter's framework, 8 Principles of Change. It started with this premise that you needed a sense of urgency in order to transform. You had to have a burning platform. You had to have a crisis. to be able to transform, because that's what people would rally around. That's how you were going to get your employees to really buy into what it is that you were trying to get them to change to. And I loved that. I thought that was a phenomenal thing and a phenomenal way to approach it. So I moved to San Francisco, and I started studying statistics and why projects failed. I joined a management consulting firm there, and I got really deep into the statistics of failure and success. And I learned a lot during that time. And what I really learned was, and this is what I espoused throughout my client interactions, was the technology doesn't fail. It's the people that fail to buy into the technology, and that is your role as a leader. It's not the technology's fault. It's the fact that you haven't gotten the people to buy in. And I said things like change is hard, and culture eats strategy for breakfast. We've all heard that one, right? So I learned a lot during this time frame. I studied a lot on it. And what I also learned during this time frame was that the next evolution was going to be marked by the ability to drive innovation and customer intimacy. It was year 2000. I made partner at my firm. It was the dot-com era. It was an incredible time to be in consulting. It's about the time that Al Gore invented the internet. It's also about the time where Stanford grads were coming out and being millionaires overnight, and I was right in the heart of it in Silicon Valley. It was incredible. They'd load up their puppies into their Porsches, they'd drive to work, they'd play foosball in the halls, they'd hire these gourmet chefs from around the world, you'd eat for free. It was amazing, incredible. Shareholder value was incredible. Market caps on some of these companies were like nothing you'd ever seen overnight. It was awesome. Great time to be a consultant. And then that bubble burst. More like it exploded. And when it exploded, there was dot-com shrapnel everywhere. Shareholders were miffed. They could not understand why they were not getting the returns that they were anticipating. And you know, all my frameworks to date had really led up to this fact that it was all about shareholder returns, ultimately. All these frameworks are about shareholder returns, ultimately, driving improvement for shareholder returns. Every single tool in my toolbox. So in year 2000, well, it was actually 2012, I joined a new firm, and we had a new CEO, and this was one of the things that attracted me to this firm. We had a new CEO, and he was launching a brand new strategy for our business, Vision 2020. And in that strategy, he had a commitment that we were going to fundamentally implement a new purpose, a new identity for our company. And within a few months of joining the firm, I was asked to bring my toolbox and come and help our own firm transform. Biggest challenge, no pressure. Biggest challenge I've ever been through. And my CEO said, Cheryl, you can do it, what do you need? So I went out, I grabbed all my frameworks, I grabbed the most amazing team of professionals I've ever had the honor or privilege to work with. In fact, Mark, you know a couple of them. And I got them all in a room, and we spent months. We analyzed everything. We spent months, we looked at the strategy, we analyzed the markets, we went through all of the geographies, we decided how we were going to approach each one of them, how we were going to execute our new strategy, Vision 2020. We brought it back to the board, laid out these plans. We were really proud of the fact that we could take this massive complexity. We had 200,000 people in our company. Massive complexity, and try and take it down to its essence, to put it on a roadmap, to manage the steps in the process to get us to transform. Laid it out there, waited for the reaction, and you know what my CEO said? My CEO said to me, he said, Cheryl, this is great, this is awesome, but how are you going to help me activate the purpose of our new company? How are you going to bring that purpose to life? How's it really going to become real in the eyes of every one of our employees? And it's got to start with our employees, because they have to bring it to life, they have to make it real. Building a better working world was our purpose, and it had to be something that everybody could activate, could live, could understand, because he believed that if we did that, we would provide better service to our clients. We would engage them in the dialogue about becoming better. We would help society, we would help the communities that we operate in, and it would provide the guide rails necessary to become a better company. He was very passionate about this. And all of a sudden, that 11-year-old supermodel or garden gnome started to pop out, and I said, wow, at last. I actually think I've arrived, because what it did for me was it took me back to what I held firm to since I was a child, which is about implementing on your promises, and that those promises need to be real. And how do you activate those promises? I was pretty excited about this, and I took my team and we went back and we said, we're on to something. And what we said was, we really need to understand the role of purpose in transforming business today. It's all about meaning, it's all about human connection. It's about being authentic and being vulnerable. It's about coming up with a dialogue that helps you collaborate. It's very, very powerful, and it's what we're looking for when we talk about purpose. So the first thing we did is we really set out to define it. And one thing I want to set out right now is purpose obviously isn't new. There isn't a business that hasn't started for some purpose at some point in time, since the beginning of time. What's different about today's purpose, and I've had long discussions with people like Simon Sinek, who's now not only my hero, but my friend. And what he told me was, he goes back to the why we exist. And he truly believes that purpose is at the forefront of what we're going to see in business today. And it's critical to you engaging with an entire constituency to get help. And we think it's very, very important for what you're going to see next in the toolbox. But what I discovered is my toolbox was rusty. I needed to go back and I needed to learn a lot more before I could answer my CEO's questions. So we did a lot of research. We talked to CEOs, we talked to luminaries, like Simon, we talked to people like academics like Mark Ventresca. We talked to a number of folks. We learned a lot along the way, and what we learned was purpose, although not new, what is new is the definition is morphing into something that's much more societal, much more grounded in humanity today. And so the first thing that we thought we had to do was define it. And the way we defined purpose was purpose is an aspirational reason for being. It's grounded in humanity and it inspires a call to action. It inspires a call to action. One thing that we learned about this definition is it's really all around us. It's playing out all around us. On the front of every web page that you look at, most CEOs are directing letters to their shareholders now and to their employees and their stakeholders using much more aspirational, inspirational tone. They're using words like inspire and nurture. They're using words like better, life, healthier, safer, community, world. You see it everywhere. The language is changing. So we took our definition and we took it out to work with Oxford Saïd Business School and with HBR. And we started to study this more and more to really get underneath what's the role of purpose in business today. And one of the things that we started to talk about is why it's so important. And what we really learned about why it's so important is more than any time in the company's history, we're dealing with things around a connected, fast-paced, really complex world. And CEOs can't do this by themselves anymore. They need help. They need help more than ever before. They have to rely on a broader constituency. They have to have guide rails. We think purpose is the guide rail that allows others in and tells you really how to engage with a broader constituency. We also, in our research, started to notice a tipping point, a change. What we noticed was, since 1995, the discourse on purpose has changed dramatically. It's changed fivefold. And while purpose is going up in public discourse, sustainability is going down. We think the tipping point to this, obviously, looks like the financial crisis. We think greed and the fact that giants toppled, society pushed back, and a number of companies needed language to say, hey, we're good. We're about more than shareholder value and profits and so forth. We're about doing better. We're about societal change. We're about making things better. And so we think this is part of the trend that led to this new language of purpose. The other thing that we noticed was there's really an evolving role of the corporation. There's this expectation that the corporations are around for societal well-being. That really corporations are expected to perform better over time. The majority are expected to perform better over time because they integrate purpose and go beyond profits. That they really address that the purpose needs to address three major elements: the value to customers, positively impacting society, and generating financial returns for the long term, for their shareholders. Another key trend we noticed was that it could be a lever to drive innovation and transformation for growth. And innovation isn't just about future innovation. It's about solving today's problems. It's about fixing societal issues and solving some of the biggest problems that are in front of us. And you have to be innovative to do that. And so one of the things that we looked at was, although they feel like they're successful, 35% feel like they're successful in innovation and continuous transformation, the majority of them really haven't baked purpose in yet. So they feel like they could be more successful if they added purpose into their transformation efforts, and more than half of them are starting to plan this for future strategy development. Another interesting finding. The other thing that we looked at was purpose-driven organizations are believed to have better results overall. And this is results as it relates to employee satisfaction, customer advocacy, and higher products and services, higher quality products and services. Very important findings. These are big results, and there isn't a CEO out there that isn't worried about attracting this group of people to their company. We need you. We need you to drive innovation and growth. And we believe purpose is a great way to attract you. We think it's a way to connect with you and to connect with the great minds and what you have to offer. The last notable finding was there's an implementation gap. Yay! Woohoo! I love implementation gaps. It helps us survive. But purpose is being underleveraged. 70%. The majority of people felt like it was important to integrate purpose into their business operations, yet a little over a third really felt like they'd done that. And then there's this gap across strategy development and actually using purpose in strategy development and product development and overall business model design. So our quest had been answered. We knew we needed to develop a framework, of course. So to address the gap, we came up with what we're calling the Purpose Activation Framework, and it has 3 critical components that are different than anything that I've seen before. The first thing is it takes purpose as the pinnacle of strategy, and it embeds it in what we're calling the corporate DNA. So it takes all of those things that are necessary, but purpose is the thing that guides those things around your vision, your mission, your values. A lot of those things are internal to a company. Purpose brings the external lens. It brings the why to the forefront. The other thing that we think is critical about the framework is it looks for trusted experiences across a broader array of stakeholders. Again, you can't solve the problems by yourself, but you have to put trust in your framework. So it looks at the experiences you need to provide with your employees, with your customers, with your regulators, with the NGOs. You see it happening today. How do you build that level of trust and those trusted experiences to really, really drive your purpose home? And the third thing it relies on that I think is fascinating is storytelling. You have to be a marvelous storyteller to get your purpose out to the market in a way that people can buy into it. It's critical. The stories that you tell need to be founded in that social impact and that society well-being and that human emotion. And it needs to make it real for people. And as you go to a lot of large companies' websites and you start to look around, you'll see these stories start to come to life. So those 3 things we think are critical. And we also think the toolbox for the management consultant of the future, particularly in this next era, is going to be loaded with purpose and collaboration tools and techniques and frameworks. So my question for you is, what type of leader will you be? Will you be one that loads your toolbox with things that help you be purposeful? I'll tell you, my hope for you and my hope for the world is that you will lead with the most noble of personal and professional purposes. Thank you.